Virtual reality, the Kentucky Virtual Library. In yesterday's feedback, less than 5% of our students admitted to using the Kentucky Virtual Library for research. So I want to take this opportunity today to kind of introduce what should be a very valuable tool for all of your core classes, not just for the informational mode that we're doing in creative writing, but also something that you can use in any one of your other academic subjects. Do your teachers ever ask you to find reliable sources? Like when they ask you to start looking for information, do they put restrictions on what you can and cannot use?
No.
Sometimes. Right? What does it mean for something to be reliable? Elliot?
Trusted.
You can trust it. That's the exact word that I was thinking of. So we've got to be able to identify reliable sources that we can trust for accurate information. But then sometimes, even once we've got a good source, even if our teachers give us the source, because I know that some of you mentioned, like Ms. Conley gave you certain websites or certain articles when you were doing your religions essay. But even if you've got a source that you know is reliable, do any of you ever sometimes struggle to find the actual information out of it that you should use or the information that you need? So it's sometimes difficult to find the relevant information also. Today's activity can help you with both of those things. Before we go further, I want to talk about guidelines for behavior today. So for our CHAMP guidelines, conversation from you all should be none without permission today. And if you need help at any point, just please raise your hand. The activity, we're going to be doing a couple of different little things. We're going to be watching some video segments, kind of back and forth between video and conversation. Going to be listening to the teacher, and then taking notes and working independently toward the end of the period. Movement would be none without permission, and right now that even includes your computers. You don't need to be doing anything with the computers at the moment. Participation, your eyes should either be on the screen or the speaker, or you're eventually going to also be working on a worksheet, so eyes there later. Always listening, always thinking. Ms. Cantrell, are you available?
Yes.
So I think we have troubleshooted most everything, except now we don't have sound. Oh, yes, it is.
Okay.
Thank you very much. It is impossible to have as much fun. Does the thought of doing research make you want to escape into a virtual reality? Do you think it is impossible to have as much fun as the people in this commercial while you are researching? If so, then the Kentucky Virtual Library is the reality you need to successfully complete a research task. Today's introductory lesson to the Kentucky Virtual Library, also known as the KYVL, will help you to identify reliable sources and relevant information for completing research tasks. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to access the Kentucky Virtual Library, determine which databases to use for specific content areas, filter searches, and use the Find feature. So let's get started. So within that little introduction, one of the first things it did was it showed you a segment from a VR commercial, a Samsung VR headset. Any of you ever had experience with those? Doing anything with virtual reality? All right. Does it feel good to kind of escape from things? Do you ever wish that you could escape from a research assignment?
Yes.
Does it ever feel overwhelming?
Yes.
Part of that overwhelming feeling may be like not knowing where to start, or going somewhere like Google. How many of you use Google?
I use them.
Almost everyone marked that on their sheets yesterday. And sometimes it brings up so much that it does feel overwhelming, and we want to stop before we've even really started. As I already know, Dwayne was the only one yesterday who mentioned that he's ever used the Kentucky Virtual Library. And Dwayne, do you go there? Like, tell me how you've done that, if you don't mind.
I usually just search up the website. And I just use it. I don't know how to explain.
So do you use it for school projects?
I use it for a lot of things.
For a lot of things. Okay, are you familiar with all the different databases that are in it?
Yeah.
Yeah? What about, so that key word there from the objectives. Dwayne said that he's familiar with the databases. Do any of you know what a database is? Dwayne, go ahead.
It's like everything that's on it. Like, there's certain like categories.
All right, yeah, different categories that kind of house everything that's there.
It's
So you
kinda hard
start,
to explain at first.
I agree with you, right? But you sort of start by selecting that category and then you can go from there. It's like getting deeper and deeper into the project. What about filtering your searches? If you've ever used any other kind of, go ahead, Dwayne.
It just helps you find the books and what like genres, like sci-fi and all that.
Yeah, so if you brought up like a certain topic and it had all the books, if you narrowed it down by genre, because you only wanted sci-fi, that makes your search easier. So filtering searches. Anybody else have experience with that now that Dwayne's kind of mentioned? So you have kind of, it's like narrowing your search. Hey, Grace. Bryant.
Hello.
Hi.
Miss Conley said that you were in there, so she just took it from me.
Ms. Conley has your lunchbox. Does he need to go get it from her? You may go get your lunchbox. Thank you, Grace. That's okay. What about the find feature? Do any of you ever use the find feature when you're on your sources? All right, I don't need, thank you. We're good. So talking about reliability and relevance, right? Yesterday, as we've already mentioned, Google was the #1 site that people used when they were doing their research. Some of the student comments said things like, I search for credible sites, or I find trusted sites, or I just Google and find a reliable site. How do you know that whatever's coming up on Google is credible or trusted or reliable? Elliot?
I know it's trusted because like no matter what I'm on, like it always has a lock, like where the
All right, so if there's a little lock by the URL, that's a secure website, which usually is when it's involving money in some way. It's letting you know that hackers are not going to be able to access your account. But that doesn't mean that it's academically appropriate. It just means nobody's going to get your information off that site. Andrew?
Usually, if the last part of it says like .org or .net.
I was wondering if your teachers had told you those. So like a .org.
Like you can check like the stars to see like those websites, and there's like the stars.
I'm not sure what you mean with the stars, but when Andrew mentioned .org, your eyes kind of lit up, so I thought you were going to give me another one. Have your
.gov.
.govs, .edus, where's that one you're going to?
.com.
And now see, that's where it gets a little tricky. .coms are just commercial site. That's what the com that's what the com stands for, commercial. So you're not really able to be as sure if a .com is credible or trusted or reliable. And even .orgs and govs and edus, like organizations, governments, education, they're not always 100% safe either.
If you look through multiple websites and it's coming up with the same answer for your question.
If you see something repeated, that's a good sign. But doesn't all of that feel like an extra step? Like you go to Google, but then you have to look for the .orgs or the .edus, and then you have to even make sure that they're showing up in multiple places. Or you might have to check those stars that Bailey mentioned and I'm going to have to look into. But that is all like, I got started, then I've got to do all this other stuff to make sure I've got reliability. With the KYVL, you can skip all that other stuff. I do just also want to mention Wikipedia was the second most popular choice in yesterday's activity. Somebody actually wrote on their card, has lots of information, real or fake. Well, if you know that it might be fake, how could you possibly use it for school? And they said that they use it for graphs. Well, the KYVL has graphs and images. It has audio files, lots of other things as well. Yes, Elliot?
on Wikipedia usually like the first or second paragraph like both of them are like true facts. Because they can't edit those too. People can go in and edit them.
It's still a bit of a risk. Yes, Jacob?
I feel like the best way to, make sure something is credible is to go to, especially if you're using Wikipedia, like search up the thing you're trying to search up and then go to multiple different sites about it and make sure all the things are the same.
Yes, like what Doug had mentioned, if you're seeing it in more than one place, that's usually a good sign. But again, all of that is kind of this middle step that you won't need if you use the Kentucky Virtual Library. So I am now going to distribute worksheets to each of you. The first thing I just need you to do, you see where the arrow is at the top? Just put your name on it. We're kind of going to work through sections of it one at a time. So start by sending them down your row, and all I need you to do is put your name on it when you get it. Oh, one short.
No.
Have they been sent down? Your row is that short? So still just one short. The next part of the worksheet that we're going to fill in are the first little 3 blanks at the top there. So, if you are, okay, I was starting to wonder if that was one of our computers. If you are at school, so if you're here in this building, or if you're at the public library, either of those educational facilities, the libraries there, the classrooms, will let you go instantly to the Kentucky Virtual Library. All you have to do is enter this URL. So please write that now at the top of your worksheet where it has website URL, www.kyvl.org, Kentucky Virtual Library. And just saying, you open an internet browser, that has fewer letters to enter than Wikipedia, right? So KYVL is a quick website to remember, kyvl.org, and once you're there, you're guaranteed that everything is going to be reliable. If you are working from home, your internet access at home, or a device that's not connected to a school, those are not going to allow you to just instantly go to the KYVL. You're going to have to give them an educational username and password. So the password for Fayette County students is Fayette #K12. And the password, Rich I, #18. The username makes sense to me. The password, I have no idea where they came up with that.
Rich.
It used to be Lumpy Heart,
Oh.
and now it's Rich I. Yes, Bailey?
I didn't get on the website.
KYVL.org. So anytime you are in our school or at the public library, the Kentucky Virtual Library is going to just have instant access. When you are not connected to an educational network, you'll have to give it this username and password, and then it will allow you to enter. So will you need this here today? No. This is for your future reference at home. So your worksheet should now look like mine, although hopefully neater. I was trying to write with a mouse. As we continue with the rest of the presentation, all of the blanks that you see here, okay, so everything that's on the front side of the worksheet still, that's what you're going to need to be listening and filling in as we go. thank you for your patience while I fast forward a little bit. Part of that video, if you may have even caught a glimpse of it, like do you see right there where it says the old lumpy heart?
Yeah.
So I made this video last year, and Fayette County has updated their password since then, and like our school website has changed a little bit too. So thank you for your patience. And now we will. Back on the KYBL site, you have a variety of options, but for our research purposes, it is best to start with 4 K-12 students, either from the orange option bar or from the group list. Select middle or middle school resources from here to see the list of reliable databases. There are 4 different broad database categories in the KYBL: Britannica Digital Learning, Scholastic Go, EBSCO, and Learning Express Library. You will notice that the icons shown here match the list you just saw from the KYBL site. Just in case, like I noticed out of the corner of my eye, a lot of people had started to look and write on their worksheet. So just in case you didn't realize, the first answer has been given so far. How many database categories are there? 4, and I have them printed there on the worksheet for you. So you should have the first blank filled in as 4. The next part has not been given yet. Britannica Digital Learning and Scholastic Go are online reference sources. They are very useful for research in science and social studies, but they do also include some information in other subjects. EBSCO has 6 different databases with a wide variety of information. There are also many ways to focus your search to find the most relevant and supporting information. This group is Ms. Greer's favorite since it not only has nonfiction research sources, but also includes novelists for finding great literature. All of the databases in Britannica, Scholastic, and EBSCO offer filters for refining your search, but one of the favorites is a filter based on your reading level to help you better understand the information for supporting your research task. The Learning Express Library is also available in the KYBL and is a great resource for studying or homework help, although it may not be the best for actual research. Now let's explore some of the different resources in the KYBL. Right. And before we do that exploration, just double checking, you should now have the front side of your worksheet filled in. So this portion that was circled there. Double checking back over these. How many different databases? This was the one that I paused it to make sure we were all started. Anybody can say it. 4, right? Britannica Digital Learning and Scholastic Go. That's what should have been filled in on those first blanks. Britannica Digital Learning and Scholastic Go. What are they? It says they're online reference sources. And what 2 school subjects are they best with?
Social studies.
Social studies and science. Nice job. Or I think the way my blank's on the worksheet, it would be science and social studies. And even though those are the best, so you have another project like for the religions in social studies or the rock cycle in science. Even though Britannica Digital Learning and Scholastic Go are awesome starting places for those subjects, I also do recommend them for math and language arts as well. Like they have a variety of information there, just mostly geared towards science and social studies. Yes, Bailey?
What was the blank after Scholastic Go?
Well, I had a separate blank for Go. That might be what's throwing you off.
But there's
Scholastic Go.
And then there's one
Our online reference sources. Which one of the categories has 6 different databases? You could even count in the picture to determine that one. You could say it if you know it.
EBSCO.
EBSCO, right? And what does EBSCO have more of maybe than some of the other ones? Many ways to filter. And when you're doing that filtering, you're finding relevant and reliable information. Thank you. All of the databases offer a filter for reading level, and that is something that has a lot of difference between students at middle school. Some of us are still reading on an elementary level, and that is okay. We're just not there yet. Some of us are reading middle school level texts. Others are able to read higher level, maybe even high school. So we got 6th grade in here right now. Some of you may be reading more 7 and 8. Some of you may go higher. Again, some may be 5, 4, 3. It's okay. So one of my favorite things about these databases is you can check your reading level as well. What is the database that might help you with homework and things and studying? I heard one person say it. The Learning Express Library. The Learning Express Library is free in the KYVL for homework help, for studying. Maybe not going there for a research assignment, but hey, just stuck on a math problem, instant access to help. So I would now like you to turn on your monitors. They should be set from where you logged in earlier. And I would like you to follow along. So please open an internet browser. Open a new browser tab, please. Enter the URL into the address bar, so that should be written.
Miss Lovely, would you call the office, please?
Written at the top of your worksheet, and it's also on the screen here. And remember, we're not going to need the username and password because we're on school property. And then also the directions are at the top of your worksheet. They're on the screen as well. So select K-12 students and middle once you get there. I see, oh, the whole end of this row, Elliot, AJ, and Tanner. Thank you, Ayla and Addie. Oh, Jacob, did your computer go off in the midst of that?
Yeah.
So once you are in the KYVL, again, please follow step 3 that you see on the screen up there. Select for K-12 students and middle. Sorry, you actually have to write it. Awesome. Okay, so Jacob, you're just going to be slightly behind us, but you can look to your left, right, front. Okay. Great, so at this point, I would like you to follow along with the mouse on your monitor, your computers. I'd like you to follow along with the activities that you're getting ready to see in the video. And as we saw earlier, where the video was made last school year and our school website changed and the password changed, there may be a few other images that are different depending on the browser that we're using or just over time. So bear with me on some of that. But for the most part, you will be able Oh, no one should be on the worksheet. We're pausing on the worksheet. So, so when we had completed the front, it says, now please follow along on your screen. So you do not need the worksheet for this portion. Someone who is close enough to see the minutes, can you tell me when I'm at 4:10, please?
You were past it.
Right there.
Right there. Right there.
Thank you. Research. Now let's explore some of the different resources in the KYVL. We will look at basic searches
On your
for
screen.
ecology, since every 8th grade student will eventually be participating in this unit for science class. All of the information found in the KYVL will come from a reliable source appropriate for school research tasks. Starting here will be safer than any basic internet search engine. Today, let's explore one database in Britannica, Scholastic, and EBSCO. Within the Britannica group, I am going to select Britannica School Middle to begin a general search. Notice that if the research topic is related to American history, we should certainly start here. Or if your primary language is Spanish, you should use Britannica Escolar or even the Spanish Reference Center. At any rate, once inside our selected database, you can choose to learn about select topics on display, but for an assigned research task, you need to search. You can choose to focus in these specific formats or do a general search. For today's introductory lesson, I am going to type ecology into the search bar.
Thank you for letting me hear those keyboards.
Notice here you can again focus on specific formats, and you can choose from 3 different reading levels. 1 being slightly lower and 3 being slightly higher. You can also select a specific lexile or even do an advanced search. These topics will be discussed more in a future lesson. For today, I am going to select the first result from my list of 122. Notice the helpful tool for the dictionary and Spanish translation that appears when you first open the item. If you know you are looking for specific relevant text to support the research task, you can use the Find feature. Control F or the open menu icon in the top right corner will allow you to search for specific text. The typing field appears at the bottom of the page.
And I think you're
For this example, let's focus on climate. By typing climate
if you hit
into the Find
Control
feature,
F,
I
that'll
see
open
that
your
there
Find
are
feature.
14 matches. I can use the arrows to look at the context for each use of the word. If any pieces of text evidence would support my research task, I would make a note. Now let's do a search for ecology and find text evidence about climate in the Scholastic group. You have a database focused on animals and then 3 collections of encyclopedias, one of which provides more multimedia resources. There is also the basic Scholastic Go, which is what I am going to use to begin this search. Once again, you can choose to learn about select topics on display, but let's focus on our ecology research task. By typing ecology into the search bar, you are provided with your results list. Again, you can focus on specific formats and choose from different reading levels. The advanced search feature is also available. For today, I am going to select the first result from my list of 384 articles. Scholastic looks very different than it did last year. Their website has updated quite a bit.
So all the levels that run down from there are
Using the Find feature for evidence on climate, and notice by typing Control F, it automatically appears, and I see it produces 4 matches. If any of this text evidence supports my research task, I would make a note. Lastly today, let's look at EBSCO. Explora will allow you to search in some very specific subjects, and even alphabetically within those, which may be a good starting place for some tasks. Once you type in your search, though, the results are similar to most all other of the EBSCO databases. EBSCO shows over 20,000 initial results and has many options for refining your search. A future KYVL lesson will explore these filters, but for today, let's again choose the first result. Using the Find feature, this time there is no text evidence that focuses on climate. Notice how it is red, but I can try the synonyms weather or temperature to find other possible relevant information. Overall today, you've seen how to identify reliable sources by accessing the KYVL databases. You have seen which databases may be best for specific content area assignments. You saw some basic ways to filter your search results and how to find features to identify relevant information to use as supporting text evidence. Overall, the Kentucky Virtual Library is the reality you need to successfully complete a research task. And so at this point, I would like you to now go back into those worksheets. It is going to give you a chance for some independent exploration with the databases. So when you turn the page, raise your hand when you can tell me the first database that I am asking you to explore on your own. Elliot? Rome is the topic. What database do I want you to use? Tanner? Britannica School Middle, yes. So if you would go back to the original home site where it has the listed databases for middle school students, the worksheet is going to ask you to begin with Britannica School Middle. And then once you're in there, as Elliot mentioned, I want you to look around for Rome. And I know our time is very tight, but please just go through as much of the worksheet as you are able to. Okay, so you're in the right place. So now type in Rome.
So it has the 3 parameters of reading. So for level 2, what is that number? 866. So there, how many results? 866. And then you can use your mouse to check for level 1 and level 3, just by clicking on it. Let me know if you need it.
Images seems to be a popular category for your Rome search. One issue, if you're looking at images, which can be very beneficial for certain types of projects, the find feature for text evidence in an image isn't going to be as effective as it would be for text evidence in a magazine article or some other report or dictionary, right? So feel free. You can kind of skip that section on the worksheet just to give you the chance to explore with a different database. If you've been in Britannica for a bit, whether you were looking at printed text or whether you were looking at images, skip down just because I know we're getting short on time. Why don't you try the rock cycle in Scholastic? I think that's the second activity on there, just to give you an opportunity to explore something different. And there was a question. Addie, did you have a question? Yeah, you can skip Yes, I knew we were. So at this point, the worksheet is yours to keep. We can revisit this next week. You will need to log off the computers for the next class. Next week we'll do a little bit more of a follow-up, but just out of curiosity, show of hands, is there anybody who was kind of a diehard Google fan coming in here and now you at least appreciate or realize the value of the Kentucky Virtual Library?
I'm still a Google fan.
And I'm still a Google fan too. Google is my go-to for most everything except my academic work, right? When I need to do something related to one of my college classes, I always begin with the KYBL. So I'm not saying abandon Google, absolutely not. I love Google. But for academic research, I think the KYBL helps cut out the middleman of trying to find that credible, relevant information. Trustworthy.
Yeah, trustworthy. You'll get used to it.
at least get at least start.
Have a good weekend.